here's the news that I have for today. This article is called Transgender Activist. All children should be given puberty blockers. We have talked about this many times on the Lamb Network, and this has popped up on December 15th that this transgender, and here's this transgender's name, so this will give you red flags right here. Xenia Adult Demon Female. Yes, that's what they call themselves on Twitter. It is a man, he was born male, that considers himself a female, that says, if children can't consent to puberty blockers, which pause any permanent changes, even with the relevant professional evaluation, how can they consent to the permanent and irreversible changes that come with their own puberty with no professional evaluation whatsoever? I think this man needs to talk to Yahovah. He also comes to say, this is literally a position that permanent changes are fine as long as you're not trans. This man has wanting to, I'm calling him a man because he has the chromosome of a male. He may think he's a female, and that's his choice. But he is sitting there saying that our children, all children, not just children that say that they think that they're a boy or a girl or whatever, but all children should have puberty blockers. And I'm sitting there going, really? Yeah? Our God created our bodies. Our God created our bodies for good. And he created our bodies to do the things that they're supposed to do. And one of the things is to go through puberty. Now, this day and age, we've had puberty issues where the children have some children are going through puberty a little bit early. And that's because of some of the foods and everything. And that's a whole nother ballpark there and a whole nother discussion. But this whole thing about the puberty blockers that you're going to have your child take from the ages of 10 to 17. I did some research on puberty blockers. And the interesting thing about it is these doctors are sitting there touting that, oh, it's okay, you can change. If you decide that you don't want to be, let's say I decide I want to be a man, okay? I decide I want to be a man, so I take these puberty blockers. I'm a boy now. And all of a sudden, I decide, you know what? I decided I want to go back to being a girl. That you can stop it and nothing's going to happen. There will be no drastic change. That is untrue. They are testing our children with things that should not be tested on children or anybody, in fact. These things cause infertility. They have found it has caused osteoporosis in some people that have been taking fertility blockers. It has caused joint pains. It's also caused some people with rashes and other issues. It's also caused to where the young men, when they're boys taking puberty blockers to become a girl, will have their seed count go down. They will have issues with their scrotum. A lot of female issues will happen as well. Again, infertility. These things will cause a lot of damage physically, emotionally, and mentally to these children when they become adults and decide to change back. And they have also found that when some people have gone through these blockers and then stopped taking them, that they've dealt with depression and thinking that they're worth nothing, because they're not going back to the way they were. It really damages the body. This is not a good thing. We need to stand up. We need to speak this out. We need to start defending our children, because our children are being attacked every day, starting from a child in the womb to a child that's starting puberty. We need to stand up for our children, and we need to do it quick. And we've talked about I think it's the HR 5, Mark, is that correct? Okay, so yeah, we've discussed it on Lamb Radio. You can go to messianiclambradio.com and you could find these HR conference talks that we've talked about. It's a bill, HR 5. There's a lot going on in that situation, that they're loopholing things in there. And again, we need to take care of this, and we need to speak forth, and we need to protect our children. And you guys can come on in, and we can discuss this a little bit. There is so much more about this, but it just really ticked me off that this transgender thinks he knows everything. And to have that type of name, who wants to follow that, especially if you're a believer? Sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm not following that.
Well, it literally, it seems that more and more, literally, it used to be every so often, but now it's every day. Anything that God created is natural, as something that is supposed to happen, and it's the process of life. Somebody's coming against it. And it's so funny because so many of these different things seem to be tied to the LBGT movement. It's so many things that it just keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up. Literally, if it has something to do against God's normal process, then it all comes under the heading of the HR5 or the LGBT movement. I ran across an article the other day that somebody was starting now to tie in. Let me real quickly. I got it right there in the headline. If homosexuality is okay, then why isn't incest okay? And when we did the HR5 conference, which you can find on the LAM network, you just go do a search for it on the LAM network and it'll pop up we have loads of pages on that. And if we talked about the fact that pedophilia is actually a part of the LGBT movement in accepting pedophiles, because it's coming against something that this is the way they want to be. And so our society is now blocking everything that people come against. If we're coming against it, they're blocking us and allowing these things to come out because according to them, they are the natural course of life. If it's God's natural course, then God's not popular these days, but anything against God is popular these days. I just can't imagine that even something has been created that is what's called a puberty blocker. I just can't even imagine that somebody tried to come up with this in the first place, or even if it was an accident that they found that they had something that could stop this process. Why didn't they stop the process of processing it at the time they found it? Because there's no reason for it. Absolutely no reason. I don't care what the deal is. That product we shouldn't even be putting those two words in together. Puberty blocker. Just those two words shouldn't even be in a sentence together for any reason. And so I'm going to tell you, when I have to talk to Sandi about what we talked about today, underwear, toilet paper, and puberty blockers, he's going to say, Mark, you're never hosting that show again. I'm telling you.
And you know what's interesting is this puberty blocker, one of the puberty blockers that they talked about, and it starts with a Z. Forget it, I'm not going to pronounce it because they like to do, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious words. So anyway, this puberty blocker, what was used for it to begin with was prostate cancer, was to help men with prostate cancer. And it was also to help with other items, but they found out that this helps to block the hormone that can that gets triggered in for puberty. And what's interesting about this also is you hit it. I think you hit it on the nail on the head with the pedophilia. These pedophiles don't want the children to grow up and become men and women. They want them to stay in that process. But also what was interesting is, I can't find the article right now, but you can, look it up yourself, is that there's a lot of LGBTQ, mainly not the T, the transgender. This one transgender, but a lot of lesbians and gays out there, or homosexuals, they are stating that they don't want that, because they want to where a child grows up to be attracted, a girl to a girl and a boy to a boy kind of thing. Okay, so there's a lot of fighting going on amongst the LGBT.
Well, of course there is.
Okay,
of course there is.
Exactly. It's a mess, but we need to step up and speak out, because this has been going on so long. Not just with the transgender, but also with the murder of our children. And we need to save it's time to step up and save the children. In fact, Matthew, I'm going to read this because this is Yahovah's word. Matthew 18:6. And whoever ensnares one of these little ones who trusts me, and many children, they know him, it would be better for him to have a millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the open sea. Right.
Yep, that's good. And don't ever say the mafia isn't biblical. Sherry got it. Go ahead, Sherry.
In the words of my sweet grandmother who partially raised me, have we lost our cotton picking minds? I mean, have we just lost it? I mean, not often Chatty Cathy here is at a loss for words.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I'm like, have we lost all sense of direction? A boy is a boy, a girl is a girl. It's in their DNA. It's in their chromosome. You ain't going to change it. You may change the outward look of the body, but you ain't going to change it. Mm-hmm. Get over it. Mm-hmm. And, it says in scripture, I'm fixing to get out some real heavy water here. Male and female, he created them. It wasn't until they took the female out of Adam. So you can have males that are born with the nurturing part, or you can have females that have more of an outdoorsy, go get them type thing. It doesn't mean they're not a female or a male. It just means they have, different traits. Everybody's different. And we seem to think, oh, that little boy plays with the doll, there must be something. No, he just has more nurturing traits. That's just his personality. Get over it. It's a boy. He's liable to grow up, be a stay-at-home dad, and his wife goes out and works. Who knows? But I mean, we try to stereotype kids and put them in boxes, and have we lost our cotton picking mind? And I'll tell you, I heard someone say that they saw Yeshua, and I don't know if you put it that way, but he's really mad about this. He's really hot about this one. Probably because it is corrupting children. A child cannot defend themselves in a lot of ways. You can stand up whatever you teach them, they're going to believe you most times, unless someone's there to present a counter argument. Mm-hmm. And so it is a corruption of children is exactly what it is. We're murdering our children and we're corrupting them. Don't send letters to Messianic Lamb Video Network. I have the right to free speech. This is my opinion. They're nuts. They're just nuts. And they're showing stuff out there. They're proving that kids, that 11-year-old cannot make the choice of going through puberty or not. And they have shown that some of the kids that have had that and then got up in their 20s bitterly regretted that they did it. Mm-hmm. They don't have the right, the whole thing is wrong to begin with. A boy is a boy and a girl is a girl. So what if the guy likes to cook and likes to take care of the kids? Big deal. He's who cares? Doesn't mean he's weird.
One of the things I was thinking about, you brought to my mind, is that, there is probably no greater hurt in an adult's life than to lose a child. Okay, it's just, that's just not the natural order of things.
Mm-hmm.
But so when I think of puberty blockers, and it's determining how that child grows, then what greater, my gosh, that's just like right next to literally having your child die. It's all but having your child die, because you have just set a course for that child that is not the way it's supposed to be. And it's like, I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine.
It's stunting their growth. It's to me, it's abuse. Okay. Now I'm going to ask this question, because this transgender Xenia, I'm not going to say the rest of her name or his name, says, if children can't consent to puberty blockers, which cause any permanent changes, even with the relevant professional evaluation, how can they consent to permanent and irreversible changes that come with their own puberty with no professional evaluation whatsoever? So what, I find, I'm like going, because, this is a natural order, sir. It's a natural thing. That's like going and saying, well, a cat, she shouldn't go and mate with the male cat and have babies, because that just, she doesn't understand what she's doing. I just don't understand this person's mentality until I put in the chat the websites for the stuff I'm talking about. And there's a picture of him, because it's a him. And he has a little tattoo on here that's, by the way, it's a witchcraft symbol. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that makes sense why you're saying this. Because again, Mark, you said it. It's all against what God has done, what God has created, how he has manipulated. God created each one of us to go from a seed that grows into a child in the womb to be born. From birth, that child grows to become a man if he's created as a boy, or a woman if he's created as a female. And they are created in God's image. What's happening today, I believe, is man is trying to become God and trying to create themselves in their own image and not God's image. And that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
And what kind of qualifications does this man have? Where did he come from? What's his qualifications? I mean, maybe he didn't even graduate from high school. Who cares? I mean, I don't care if he went and he's got a PhD in whatever. PhD could be post-hole digger too. I mean, common sense. Yeah. It's like I just think about my grandmother. Have we lost our cotton picking minds?
So the question is
ridiculous.
So if a child doesn't understand that they're going through the puberty, then putting those blockers on, I'm doing the opposite side of the spectrum here. I'm doing their side. So if the child doesn't understand puberty, it's okay to give them those blockers, because they don't understand that either.
Yeah.
Does
right?
My marbles.
Right. One thing leads to another. That's all there is to it. Exactly. All right. I think we've exhausted that one.
Yep.
We're going to move
into blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.